welcome in Brew Crew to another fantastic episode of the Dynasty Brews podcast. We're streaming live right now on Twitter and YouTube, and it's been quite a past couple of weeks in training camp. I mean, unfortunately, the news that we get now is usually a lot of bad news because we're talking injuries. But there's some good news to ride off on too. As always, you got Double J in here, Justin and Justin in the house. Before we get on to the news, I'm gonna bring Justin in. Justin, how are you doing, my man?
Um, it's Friday, not at your typical Dynasty Thursday. That's for sure.
Not your typical Dynasty Thursday for sure, but we are delivering that Friday edition of energy, and we are delivering that Friday edition of information to our fans.
Beardless information.
If you are listening to us on Spreaker, yes, Justin has reverted back to his 15-year-old self. It is absolutely hilarious to see a man that I've never met in person how he was in high school. To see his face in high school is actually pretty damn hilarious.
To be fair, this is like 10-year-old. I had a beard by the time I was like 15, 16, but
we we were talking about it beforehand. Your wife must get so many questions when she goes to the supermarket. like how old is the big one?
how much of your food budget does he take up? He's going to be a good lineman someday.
Where is their dad? I am their dad.
It's okay.
Oh,
I'll get you back. I'll get you back. Probably never, but I'll try.
it's in your back pocket now. I have lit the fire. Oh, before we have a whole hour of me just laughing at your beardless face.
And
Um,
mustacheless. I'm telling you, I no hair on this dude's face. None.
Zero. His
Zero.
eyebrows barely made it.
So I'm gonna go no shave the rest of 2022. Well, that's a lie, but
Yeah. Let's save it for November. Let's grow it back and save it for November.
I'm gonna
Oh,
surprise you one day.
no, the real surprise is now it's going to be when I shave all this off, which is probably going to be never while we're doing this show.
You have too much self-respect for yourself. I get it.
But I actually change it up a little bit sometimes. Like sometimes I'll let the scruff grow out, and then sometimes I'll go full pirate. I'll bring like the little stash right here, the little goatee. But it's always a change up. I want to get the gel and really like go full pirate, do the twirls.
Yeah,
But,
I
but
can't do that. Mine grows in all white trash like this. The way it normally is, as Joe Dirt would say.
well, that's when you really embrace the white trash and you go out and you get yourself a motorcycle, a Harley Davidson, preferably, and you grow the handlebars into like the meaty handlebars.
I really need to just go shirtless and go work at the work at the carnival.
That works too.
Fully embrace Joe Dirt. That's what I should do.
Now,
And
now the question.
for those of you that are watching or listening, I hopefully go douse your eyes with alcohol so we can move on. I'm done making fun of my myself.
For those of you that are listening still at this point, I want to bring in SeatGeek. Everybody, we at Dynasty Brews are gladly trying to help you out by getting you $20 off of your first purchase with SeatGeek. Now, Justin, I know that you know this as well as I do. It's here. Preseason is here. Football is back, baby. And there is no cheaper time than preseason to go get yourself some tickets. And if you want to get a steal on some tickets, go to SeatGeek. Type in the promo code Dynasty Brews and save $20 off your seat at the next game that you go to. Sometimes preseason games can only be like, $40. Cut it in half and go get yourself one of those ice cold refreshments. But at least you don't have to pay it on. You don't have to put it on your account at SeatGeek because they will take it off. Take $20 off your first purchase with SeatGeek. Promo code Dynasty Brews. That is right. I also want to throw out another friend of the podcast and new addition to our sponsors. That is Row One. Row One, the supplier of over 7,500 prints. You can get it any type of way you want. You can get it acrylic, you can get it on metal, you can get it framed, you can get it paper print, whatever you want. Do you have a famous moment in the history of sports that you want and you want to frame it and you want to do it in some cool metal, frame, or you want to do some acrylic art with it? Go to Row One. They got your back, and use the promo code DBP15 to get 15% off your next order with Row One brand. I'm thinking about going and getting myself something Michael Jordan-esque, maybe some old school 49ers. They also have old ticket stubs for them, for you guys. So go out there today, Row One brand, promo code DB15 for 15% off your next order. And so we are going to get into it right now. Justin will be back in a second. But we are doing some training camp news, and we are also going to do some Deshaun Watson stuff. So, as you guys all know, Deshaun Watson, he just got, the NFL just appealed his suspension. So now we're kind of in that limbo stage where we're kind of like, okay, the NFL really wants to go out and get, a year put on him and maybe an indefinite ban, which we don't know where that's going to lead to. But at this point, I would say Deshaun Watson is at best, a QB3 for you on your team. I'm not spending up capital to go get him. We don't know how long this is going to play out. There is a likely chance that the PA also appeals, and if there's a suspension that's put on for, any longer than the current one is, and there's a chance that they end up in this little kangaroo court for a good amount of time and kind of like bandy back and forth trying to figure out which is the right suspension for him, which could lead to him playing, but it could also lead to an Ezekiel Elliott situation where we saw when Ezekiel Elliott had the same thing, you lost him for a good amount of time in your playoff run. Now, that's why I'm saying QB3. I don't want to have to rely on Deshaun Watson next year. I want to have Deshaun Watson, if he's playing, for those up weeks. So he's a best ball type of guy. He's a QB3 and a super flex type of guy, which I would still also go out and get another QB4, maybe like a Davis Mills or something like that. But he's the type of guy that you want to put on your roster because, he has that upside if he makes it on the field. So I just wanted to get that out to you guys. I think that, Deshaun Watson isn't completely off the table. There's definitely still a chance he plays next year. But you got to take it and you got to pursue it with caution. A couple of things from training camp that I want to talk about was a couple of the injuries that happened. We had James Washington, George Pickens, Tim Patrick kind of go down. I know the Claypool was a shoulder injury. We don't know really the duration of that just yet. With Tim Patrick, it was an ACL, so heal up, buddy. Don't get back too fast. You got paid. Don't go draft him. Don't go draft him right now because he's not an option. Dynasty, if you can get him at the very end, he is an option. But as of right now, he's going to be at home. He's not going to be there this season. And the best you can hope for is that he's there next year. But this is also a chance to maybe go and invest that end of the draft pick with KJ Hamler, or maybe even like, a Greg Dulcich. He's been kind of shining. I know he had a little bit of injury problems, but I believe he's back at practice. He was back at practice today. Um, but yeah, so I think that those are obviously guys that you can invest in and invest in pretty late in drafts to where it's not going to really affect you. It's going to be more like a flyer. Also, with the Claypool thing, this opens up George Pickens, a discussion that I want to bring up with other Justin when he gets back in. George Pickens is a very good option this year, and he's starting to pick up the offense really fast. They're liking what they see with him out in camp so far. I think that there is a good chance that George Pickens plays more than we think he's going to. And I don't know, with Deontay Johnson getting this new extension, now it almost looks like Claypool's almost the odd man out. Like Claypool has to kind of like figure it out this year, or he might be out in a year or so. So I would really be on that front looking out for that. Pickens is a definite must in Dynasty. Redraft, I would stay away from him, but I would definitely have him on my wait list or my watch list on any leagues. I would have him there because and near the top too, because there's a good chance that this guy could go off at any moment and he could get that spot with Claypool if Claypool is really, severe, if this injury takes longer to heal than we think it would.
All right, sorry. My kid
Oh,
got his
you're good,
tonsils
sir.
out, and my wife's out of town. So,
No worries, no worries. Um, I was just telling everybody about, kind of like the rundown, and I was at George Pickens. I was talking about how the Deontay Johnson extension and Claypool having the shoulder injury and not really having a clear timeline of getting back kind of makes George Pickens somebody to really look into because, I like I was saying, um, you know, Claypool might be the odd man out with this new extension coming in. And if he doesn't really produce this year, he might be out in a season or so, and that might be
yeah,
George Pickens' spot. What do you think?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, that extension. I need to. I'm waiting for the more details to come out about that extension and how much of it's real money versus how much of it is just an add-on year, so they can trade him next year. They just might have given him some money to just keep him happy for a year. I think Pickens is the future of that franchise, though, at the receiver position for sure.
Yeah,
As far as Claypool goes, Um, I mean, everyone talks about how talented Claypool is, but you really only see it in spurts. I haven't seen it consistently for a whole season, and I think if we're looking for something consistent, we're going to have to wait a little bit because again, the reports out of camp aren't looking good about the quarterback position.
exactly. And I ran through the Tim Patrick situation. Um, So the Tim Patrick situation is interesting because it kind of opens the doors for a couple of players to come in and maybe pick up some extra receptions. Are you looking now to double down on Jerry Judy and Cortland Sutton because of that, or are you looking to maybe see about maybe getting a KJ Hamler or a Greg Dulcich, somebody that you think maybe the targets will be dispersed to?
Yeah, I'm still all in on Cortland Sutton. Judy's risky, but I guess the reports are he's been a star of camp. But it's that time of year where you're either injured or you're having the best camp of your life. So
Right, right. And I mean, 100%. Camp talk is always the biggest hype train of them all. Like they want you to believe that they're going to be the next big thing in camp. And it kind of speaks to it when you get guys like Donald Parham getting all this praise out of kind of nowhere. Um Big physical 6'8" athletic tight end. Do you have any do you want any part of Donald Parham over Gerald Everett this year? Is a question because he's been getting like these outstanding reports so far, and it's tempting, especially when you really don't have to pay anything for him.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not too risky when it comes to my tight ends. I mean, I guess I am. I guess I just have two guys. I'm all in on Evan Ingram and Dallas Goddard, and then obviously the big three at the top of the board. But I, I just don't really believe that tight end's going to be a big factor out of either one of those guys. I mean, especially if the Stafford news is legitimate. Like, then you have John freaking Wolford throwing him the ball.
Well, we're talking about the Chargers, not the Rams.
Gerald
So yeah,
Everett. Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Um, yeah, I still that to me is still the Mike Williams show.
yeah, no, 100%. Um, so I have a little bit. There's other news out there. One that has really sparked some like Twitter buzz has been the James Washington one, because a lot of people are either quadrupling down on CD Lamb, or they're starting like in my camp. I'm all about Jalen Tolbert. I was a Jalen Tolbert fan coming out of college. I thought he had a lot of potential to him. I thought he needed to refine himself a little bit more, but I mean, in Dallas, fitting right into what the Michael Gallup role would have been. Gallup's not a sure thing for week one. Now you got Washington, who's not going to be there. Um, are you taking a shot in redraft leagues on a rookie Jalen Tolbert, and or are you doubling down on Dalton Schultz and moving him into like maybe almost that top three
Yeah,
range?
I think Dalton Schultz is the guy you want. I don't, you know how I feel about CD Lamb. He's had talent around him the last couple of years, hasn't gotten it done in my opinion. He's got 1,000 yards, receiving, but so is DJ Moore with less around him. So if you're looking at a guy that you want to invest in with this news, it's going to be again Dalton Schultz. I don't have any confidence that CD is the guy that everyone makes him out to be. And I think Player Profiler had comped him to Jerry Rice, and in what dream was that? I'm sure Player Profiler does good work. I'm just saying that. I mean, Jerry Judy wishes he was Jerry Rice. I just don't see that coming to fruition. And I think next year we're going to be in a situation where the Cowboys look at themselves in the mirror and they say, this is kind of a hot take, but a year from now, it's not too outside of the box to sit here a year from now and think, okay, well, we missed on CD Lamb. It's not what we thought. He's not the superstar, so we need a receiver. We're going to have to cut Zeke because we can't afford him. Our offensive line needs to be rebuilt. Um, you know, I don't like investing in this team in terms of dynasty. And if I had Dak or anyone else, I would be running for the hills right now, in all honesty, because you maybe have one more year left. And then I think that they're going to eventually, in the near term, have to rebuild this thing from the ground up, unfortunately. And Jerry Jones ain't getting younger.
Wow, that is a pretty hot take. Because say what you will about CD Lamb, he may not be the superstar just yet. I mean, he's a very talented guy, but they do have a lot of talent around Dak Prescott. I mean, when Gallup comes back, then like I said, you have Tolbert, you have Schultz. I do agree with you that line needs to be restructured, but they did kind of, go
Zeke.
after that future left tackle and Tyler Smith this year.
I mean, Zeke's going
Um,
to be gone, right? So you need to rebuild your O line. Zeke's
yeah,
probably gone. I mean, Gallup has has shown me enough. He's not a one. CD's not a one. They don't have a lot of cap room left. Dak is going to keep wanting more money. I mean, by next year, Dak's going to be in his third year of his 4-year deal, I want to say. So when
mhm,
you look at that, you're thinking, okay, well, we have to extend him soon. There's just a lot of dominoes that have to fall the right way. And I think that next year they're going to have to be talking extension with Dak because they can't use the franchise tag anymore. Because if they use the franchise tag, I think it's at like 167% of his salary the year before. So
right.
I think long term they've kind of bungled this whole salary cap situation. And they're kind of putting themselves in a really bad spot where CD has to be the guy or they have to knock their drafts out of the park. And I don't think they've done that in the last couple of years.
Well, it really is a come to Jesus moment with Jerry, and it's really gonna, this like you said, this offseason is gonna be important because I don't think McCarthy's gonna be there. I think that they're gonna try and figure out something else. Whether it is Sean Payton, I don't think it will be, or it's somebody else that Jerry can kind of dictate around and puppet master. But I don't know. I'm not so down on CD. I think CD has a lot of the Cooper Cut traits where he can be interchangeable in the inside, in the outside. He can be a real threat. I think he's just kind of gotten the shaft because he hasn't been what we want him to be. But I mean, all being said, I think he was a decent receiver last year, and now he has the chance to take the reins on as the number one. So we'll find out. But I do agree with you. I think Dalton Schultz is a locked in tight end one. Do not miss
Yeah.
on this guy. He is going to make your team that much better this year. And we all know after about Hawkinson, tight end seems to like dry up for a little bit in the rounds.
Well,
So
technically Goddard's after Hawkinson, but after Goddard, I would agree. You're looking at Evan Ingram or David Njoku, I guess.
yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like in drafts, people start to stop drafting tight ends like right around Hawkinson
Yeah.
because they start to think like tight ends. I can punt it now. You know what I mean? If you didn't get that big four, a lot of people start to think, oh, I can punt it. But I think that Goddard, Schultz, those guys can easily be in that top three this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
would totally agree with that.
hell yeah. So for the second part of the show, I kind of wanted to throw in the whole buy sell segment. I wanted to throw a couple names at you, and I wanted you to. Well, actually, you know what? Here, I wanted to get your take on this because you're a big Deshaun Watson guy, and we're going to see
Mhm.
that later on in your ranks. I ranted for a little bit. How do you feel about the NFL appealing?
I mean, I thought maybe they wouldn't do it, but here we are, and there's reasons to. I mean, I understand. I'm not going to go to bat for the dude's character, but what I will say is, um, you want to talk about like throwing the book at one guy. I mean, that's kind of what they're trying to do here. So I think it's a little bit ridiculous. I'm not going to bat and going to condone the behavior, but what I think is absolutely ridiculous is how you have an owner in Robert Kraft who essentially, essentially prostituted at a massage parlor and had a happy ending. He got 0 games. So if you extrapolate that to if you take 0 times 24, you still get down to 0. So I it's the NFL. I think now they're starting to operate off of things based off of public opinion ever since the Ray Rice thing. And, you even saw today with the Arizona Cardinals, they had one of their coaches who had domestic battery and they knew about it all off season. And the second it leaked, then the NFL was like, oh, well, crap, this leaked. We probably should shut him down and suspend him. It's like, or you just make the right decision when it happens. I think too much of this is optics instead of just actually handing out a punishment that I wouldn't be bashing the NFL if I didn't feel like it was completely for what the public perception was of everything. But I'm still going to be in on Watson. He'll probably have to miss another year. He's going to play this preseason. I think the Browns want to get him on the field because they pretty much want to be like he's not going anywhere. That's kind of the message I think they want to send.
Yeah, and I mean it's so. I like to think of it as it's been a kangaroo court. People have literally just been. I mean, this whole thing is because public opinion is a huge thing nowadays. Like it's swaying major corporations, and that's what it's doing with the NFL. Like you said, you hired somebody to come in and be an unbiased arbiter of the situation, and she took in the information, and she took in the information that you have dealt out to other people, and the NFL pretty much said, "Nah, that's not the way we want to do it now." Like you
Yeah,
said, like now
I mean,
is not the way they want to do it. They want to set a new precedent with Deshaun Watson. They want to say everything else that we've done in the past. The Ray Rice beating his wife in an elevator,
got
the
4 games.
yeah, the Kareem Hunt dragging a girl in a freaking hotel hallway, all that stuff that was actual physical abuse that people have documented, that had witnesses. We're just gonna pass that off, and we're
Or
going to set a new
Tyreek,
precedent here.
even the Tyreek Hill thing, he got 0 games for that. Now there's not a lot of evidence that. And I could go on for days about how disgusting the NFL. I mean, the NFL just doesn't care. They care about public opinion. Like, if they really cared about public opinions, I think the public is all for free regular season games. Why charge for NFL ticket?
Yeah,
Public perception says we shouldn't, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I could go on for days. It's ridiculous. And
Uh, yeah.
so is the whole thing. You know, Watson's not victimless in this. I mean, he did the crime.
No,
I,
no, he's not. I
so
mean, he, like I've said plenty of times, he's a piece of shit, but you still got to treat it like it's an actual case in law.
yeah.
Like, if there's no sufficient evidence for it, then what are we doing here? Like, I
Well, it
mean,
sounds like it's. I mean, it does sound like you know, she threw the book at him. She said that she didn't believe him,
yeah,
and that she thinks he broke 3 levels of the personal conduct policy, which is all fine. But
right,
then she, like you said, she was like, "But there's nothing, you can't go out there and say that the measures like normally. I think in the rule book it's like 6 games, and owners are quote unquote held to a higher standard. You
right,
can't say this and then try and ban him for a whole year. It just doesn't work that way."
exactly. And so, we'll figure out where it's at. I told our listeners I am holding him only as a QB3 in Superflex, and I'm saying go get a QB4. I don't want him for anything other than pure upside. He is not my quarterback to be, you know, a major
S-
player this year. He is
Not this
purely
year, but again, it is dynasty.
no, 100%. No, 100%. But what I'm saying is like value wise, if you can still get him at the back end drafts at those, 20 quarterback range, I'll take it. But
Yeah.
if I have to pay up for him, a guy who hasn't touched the field in a year, might be even longer. I don't know. I don't know if I'm that risky.
It's only been 2 years. I mean,
Yeah. But we'll find out more about that a little bit later. But I do want to get into this buy sell because I think that there's a couple of guys that we differentiate on. And I think it could be good for our podcast to get out all this stuff on air and let the people kind of figure it out for
an
themselves.
airing of grievances of sorts.
Let the kangaroo court start. But so I wanted to push it over to you. I want you to put out a name that you think I might not like, or just a name that you're like, it's popping in your head and you want maybe a second opinion on. Tell me
As far
somebody
as
that you want me to buy or sell.
I want you to buy or sell. Yeah, so I think one guy that I think we should really be considering selling after the news of Matthew Stafford is Cooper Cup. I mean, the only reason people have Cooper Cup in Dynasty is if you're trying to win now. There's no other reason to have him. He's not a long-term asset. And if this tendonitis is a real deal, you're staring down the barrel of John Walford or at best Jimmy Garoppolo. Um, I don't. They don't have any draft picks they can really trade. They don't have a draft pick next year. So even if you think Cup's gonna, do Cooper Cup things for past this season, they don't have a first next year, so it's gonna be harder to get a pick then. So I think in my 3-year outlook, year 3 is maybe when you get a break at the quarterback position, and that's if they draft well. Because next offseason we could be staring on the barrel of a Jared Goff being reunited with LA Rams. I mean,
Tell
they just
me why that does not sound bad to me. Jared Goff, the master of checkdowns, the slot slayer.
the last time we saw Jared Goff in the Rams, John freaking Wolford started over him.
Well, the last time Jared Goff was on the Rams, Cooper Cup also posted a wide receiver for a year.
Again, John Wolford was the starter in the playoff game because they had realized at the end of the run that they did not think that Jared Goff was going to get it done.
Yeah, that's what I
And
wish the 49ers did with
I mean, Stafford was a game changer for them.
Oh yeah,
And I, I just, you know, the problem is that Cooper Cup may have turned into 4 season, but Robert Woods is gone. Odell Beckham hasn't signed, so you're kind of relying strictly on. I mean, you got Allen Robinson, but how long is Allen Robinson good for? I mean, this whole offense is geared towards like the 1 year. This is like the dude taking 30-year-old plus guys in the startup draft and going all out to win it in 1 year, and then next year he's like, I'll just pay for it, and then he's going to quit the league. Like that's
exactly.
these guys are going to get fired pretty soon because this is going to go south.
Well,
And
a lot of
maybe and
people.
they've already kind of jump started this. Sorry to go off topic here, but
No, you're
there was already those rumors of McVay retiring young, which is AKA this roster is getting pretty old. I gotta like lay the foundation for me getting the fuck out of here when things go south.
Yeah, I mean McVay definitely went the superstar route and went and got Stafford. And I don't blame him, um, but I don't know. I don't think Stafford, this tendonitis thing, I don't think it's going to be as big as you make it out to be. I don't think the world's going to freaking end because, you know,
But he got surgery like like early on in the off season to
yeah.
resolve the issue, and it's still not resolved.
Well, I'm sure. See, here's the thing. I don't, I don't know. I guess I don't think it's going to be as huge of an issue. I think that, just a little bit of elbow tendonitis is not going to, I mean, at this point, you could probably just shoot it up with some stem cells and it will probably feel a little bit better.
Remember
If
Andrew
he's
Luck
another,
missed. Remember how long Andrew Luck missed though?
how long did Andrew Luck miss?
It was like almost 2 years until he came back for the 1 year, and then he retired.
Well, we hope the best for Matthew Stafford.
Listen, I'm not saying that it's. I mean, I'm not sitting here acting all doom and gloom, but you know, you play a game based on probabilities and risks, and I think there's a probability that's greater than zero that Stafford has an injury that might linger, and you might not be getting the best out of your players because of it. So that worries me if I'm going all in and buying Rams receivers. Especially considering 2 weeks ago all we heard about was how awesome Allen Robinson was.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair with you, I'm buying your argument of selling on Cooper Cup. You know, if that makes sense. I'm gonna sell on Cooper Cup for sure because one, I don't even think he's gonna replicate anywhere near the season he did last year. Not to say he's gonna have a bad year. I'm just saying, you know, only Jerry Rice can do Jerry Rice things for an entire career. Like Cooper Cup, amazing season last year, but like you said, so many factors went into it. He lost Robert Woods. He didn't have really another major threat in that offense. And Matthew Stafford nonstop peppered him with targets. If Matthew Stafford even gives, let's say, 50 more of those targets to Allen Robinson, we're already looking at, a
I think
down
it,
that.
I think it could be Henderson more so than Robinson, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it could be Henderson, and Van Jefferson just had knee surgery, so he looks like he might be out of it. They also got that other pass catching running back from Notre Dame. Was his name Williams? Kyron Williams?
hmm
Kyron Williams, yeah,
I wasn't too high on his tape, but
yeah.
the Rams are funny. They'll find some diamonds in the rough, and then other times they'll draft. Who is that twig they drafted last year that was
Tutu
just
Atwell,
too at. So I don't know. They're very hit and miss.
5'6", 120 pounds.
I think I weigh yeah.
Yeah, 5'6", 120. What?
When I'm a multiplier of your weight, it's not a good thing.
Oh man, so we'll have to see with that offense. I mean, like you said, you're a huge Daryl Henderson fan. That could mean great news for Daryl Henderson.
Yeah,
Um,
but you still want a functional pass game. I mean, the best case for the running backs is Jimmy Garoppolo. So, or Jared Goff. I mean, Jared Goff, if you look at statistically, his best years were when he had, a strong running game. Whereas, the difference between Stafford and um, Goff was that Stafford created the run game because he passed so well, whereas the run game created the passing game with Goff because they ran so well. So,
well, I'll just say this: I think it's a little bit early to start calling
nope, nope, he's done.
Stafford's
Toast. He's
two year
retiring.
recovery period, and I think it's a little
Uh,
too early to put Jared Goff back in Los Angeles. And I
well,
hope that Jimmy Garoppolo lands in Los Angeles because I would love to see Nick Bosa be eating his cookies all day long.
just wait
But
2 years from now when Goff is there and this podcast is still running over 100 episodes in. Well,
I hope to hit
all
100 episodes very soon. But I'll tell you what, I don't think 100 are. I don't think our celebration of 150 episodes is going to come with the Jared Goff "I told you so" episode.
oh, just wait. You don't know how similar to George Costanza, you don't know how petty I can be.
Oh, I love your
He might he
Seinfeld
might even be
references.
he might even be a guest on the show. Who knows?
Well, if he is
It
a
might.
guest, then you definitely have to bring on Larry David as well because he is the one guy I want to talk to because he is the real life George
He
Costanza.
is the real life George, and me. But hey,
But so I've got one for you,
okay.
Derek freaking Carr.
Oh God,
Tell me you don't love this guy.
I
Tell me
don't.
it hasn't rubbed off on you.
I can't get into it, especially with the Hall of Fame game, the lack of a running game. I think we're all buying this narrative that Derek Carr is some
Lack of a
elite super
running game. What are you talking about? Josh Jacobs ran for 6 yards per carry.
against scrubs. Yeah, yeah. I mean, hey, I
Hey, those
I
scrubs,
w-
the
I
Jacksonville
want
Jaguars, that's a respectable team.
it's a respectable organization. I mean, I think now that Urban Meyer's gone, now that you can bring your daughters into the facility. Listen, I
Your
just
Snickers are definitely safe.
I can't get into Derek Carr. I know you've given me the statistics offline. You've made the case. I've considered it. The judge has ruled, and I say no. I don't see top 12 in his range of outcomes. I, the Raiders extended him, quote unquote, by giving themselves several outs in this deal, which tells me that I don't think McDaniels is necessarily there with Carr yet. And I think the first chance he gets next year to get a Bryce Young, um, you know, Phil Jerkovic, who I'm very high on. I think if he gets the chance to get these guys, I think he's going to take a stab at it. It's kind of funny. Gruden flirted with the idea for 3 or 4 years, as Chris Sims would say on Pro Football Talk. He kind of wired the robot and had Carr operating at peak efficiency last year. We're entering a brand new offense, and McDaniel's offenses are not super simplistic to run. So I just don't see it this year. I think they're going to finish last in the division. Is kind of where I have them pegged.
So here's my thing. They can finish last in the division and still win 9 games and have a shot at a playoff.
They could, yeah.
Especially with the playoffs expanding, ever expanding. At one point, there will be every team in the playoff just so that the NFL can have nonstop playoff action.
Be a round robin.
But I get what you're saying with McDaniels because it's not his guy. But here's my thing: why bring in Devontae Adams if you're not going to give Derek Carr a legit shot to be your quarterback? And
He's gonna
that's
give
where I
him.
think that he's
He's
going
giving
to
him the
win the job.
shot. He's giving him the shot. Yes,
That's where
but
I think he's going to win it, though. Is he's going to
he has to.
prove that he can be a 40 touchdown quarter. Book it. I said it. 40 touchdown quarterback this year.
I mean, to Derek Carr's credit, and Devonte Adams. Devonte Adams did not freeze his foot, and he did not call his grandma and say that he has been freed. So things are trending better than the last time Derek Carr got a franchise receiver. So we'll see. Last time this happened, there was a lot of expectations that first year with John Gruden, and it went to hell in a handbasket pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, but he's never had the weapons he's had now.
Hey, he
And
had the weapons. Their feet just got frozen.
no, the real problem was that he went racial on his GM.
Some people don't find that term offensive, and that's fine. I just don't think it's a term of endearment, the term that he used. I would agree with you.
Oh, I mean, we all like saltines, but I don't think we want to be called one.
No, it's not a term of endearment, as I've said.
So, I mean, I don't know. I will make a bet with you on
I'm sure
Derek
you
Carr.
will.
I
I'm
will
sure
make
you
a
will.
bet on Derek Carr. Um, another guy I want to talk to you about. You know what the next guy is?
Yeah, it's Kirk Cousins.
Trey Lance. Because
See,
I
I'm
saw him rising on your board, which I was like, what?
when you look at Dynasty, yeah, you caught me. I mean, I still wouldn't spend a it's a positional ranking, and it is positional.
Oh,
He
there it
has
is.
yeah,
There it is, number 12.
number 12.
Do you want to elaborate on your QB ranks, especially Trey Lance?
Yeah, I mean, we can start at the top. Let's look at the top three. I think any instance you look at, if it's from a credible source, the top three look fairly identical. You got Herbert, Mahomes, and Allen, right? So Herbert has had the least change around him. I put Josh Allen at three, and if we had, if people will probably trash me for these rankings, but Josh Allen lives off of his legs almost, and I think he has the shortest term of consistent, bombshell at the position because I don't think he can run like he has been the last couple of years and sustain that over the next 5 years. I just don't think that's a recipe for success. He can still dissect you in the passing game, which is why he's at number three. I think Patrick Mahomes has the best arm, but I think Herbert's just one of the most complete packages I've seen. Can escape. He's got great weapons. I think he's in a good situation. So I'm very comfortable with my top three. I could make the argument for really any of them at number one, but I went Herbert because he's had the most steady. Entering this season, he has the least change around him, which I think breeds confidence for a number one quarterback finish. You know, you look at Josh Allen last year, not a whole hell of a lot changed, and he repeated as the quarterback one. So after that, you get the most controversial pick there at number four, Deshaun Watson. Very comfortable with taking Watson late. These are my rankings. It's not necessarily how I'm drafting. It's terms of what I view their upside as. Could easily miss this season. I have a hunch that they're going to go back to the bargaining table and settle on 12 games and a fine because Watson just wants to play and he'll do whatever he has to, I think. Um, after that, you got Kyler Murray. I mean, there's not much else I can say. Murray's been inconsistent, but he hasn't really had the best receiving core outside of DeAndre Hopkins. This is a make or break season, and I think that Murray is up for MVP this season. Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott's kind of, I would say Watson 1 through 4 is almost a tier one for me because I think Watson can be there. So that's kind of I'm sure I'll get a lot of flack for that. And then the next year I think is Kyler through Dak Prescott. I think you could flip any of these names, and I'd be comfortable with any of them. I think Wilson's a little bit older, but I still think you got 5 or 6 years left. Dak's going to be able to run still. Dak's got a whole year left to get that ankle healthy and feel comfortable running with it. And I'm not so sure that, I know we talked about the Cowboys earlier. There might be an instance where the Cowboys have to trade Dak if they can't get that contract worked out. Now it's a problem that's a couple of years away, so I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but it's something to monitor in the next coming
So I
seasons.
got I got a quick question for you on the Dak topic.
Yeah.
Now that Dak is a year away from his, critical ankle injury in which we almost saw the bone, um, do you think that he becomes more mobile this year? I mean, we've talked
Yeah.
about the offensive line is, it's not fully in shambles yet, but it's a little shaky, Jake. Um, One thing that the NFC East is actually really good at is
Getting
bringing
pressure.
pressure. I mean, they're all through good
Yeah.
defensive lines. Washington's got Chase Young. Eagles have a solid defensive line led by Fletcher Cox. And then you got the Giants, who are just a gritty team that usually brings some pressure. Um, do you see Dak actually being an effective mobile quarterback this year?
Yeah.
Maybe not to where Josh Allen is, but maybe he sneaky steals a couple touchdowns away from Zeke and Pollard,
Yeah,
gets him around 300-400 yards.
I still think he'll get 6 to 8 touchdowns on the ground, kind of what he's done in the past. I think last year was kind of a down year. Really the thing with him is he's got to stay healthy. He had, he didn't I wouldn't say he fell off last season at the end, but the Cowboys kind of struggled towards the end. And I think that he was really missing that mobility that kind of made him, get that 4 year extension. I think they've even mentioned in training camp they want Dak to be a little bit more mobile this year, being a little bit more comfortable as well. So I struggled putting Burrow where I did because I'm not a big Burrow fan. Everyone thinks he's top five, and that's fine. He could be. I mean, I'm comfortable in top 10, but I do love Brady and Rodgers. And, kind of depending on where you're at in your build, I love going to get Tom Brady for a two or Aaron Rodgers for a two or whatever it's going to cost. I wouldn't give a 23 one, but I'd give a 24 one possibly. I know 24 class is looking good, but I think between now and the end of this season, you can recoup a one in 2024 if you have to. So those are kind of the next three. Burrow's good. I just worry about how much they're going to run the ball with Mixon, and I don't know if Burrow's going to be in the same offense. The Bengals are going to have to figure out a way to pay him because they don't have a lot of guaranteed money. Deshaun Watson's kind of messed up the whole payment scale of quarterbacks, and I think that's going to be a problem next year is actually getting Joe Burrow paid. So
You mean
outside
the
there,
Browns have messed up everything for everyone?
yeah, yeah, pretty much. So that's my top 11. Before I get into in the next ones are what I would call guys that I think could elevate to being in the top 12 next year in terms of dynasty assets. Because I'm risk averse. I think we've talked about this. I don't think you have to sharpshoot the position too much in order to get value at the position. Any of those guys inside the top 11, if you get two of them, you're a contender in my opinion. I mean, what do you think so far of the top 11? What are your thoughts?
I think it's interesting that you have it. I look at it and I'm like, okay, this is a very simplistic tier system here. You have the top three guys, the elite guys that can mix and match mobility with just absolute, great arm strength and pinpoint accuracy. Then 4 through 7, you've got the guys that are incredibly mobile and kind of rely on mobility more than anything else for throwing and, obviously rushing aspects. But I feel like 4 through 7 is very interchangeable. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I feel like you could easily have Russell Wilson at 4, Kyler at 7, or Watson at 6, Lamar at 4. Those
like I
four
said though,
guys.
Watson for me is top five, so top four for me. He's never finished. He's never played a season, finished a season like as a whole season, and not been inside the top five. And I don't think that's going to change. It could, but I'm a believer in the talent on the field.
Yeah, no,
So
100%. I think obviously the biggest asterisk is, you know, how many games is he going to get suspended, and what's his groove like after 2 years of pretty much being out of the game.
mhm,
Um, and then 8 through 11, I call it. It's almost like the passing of the torch. Like, Brady is almost passing the torch to Burrow, and Aaron Rodgers is almost passing the torch to Dak. I mean, I look at the two models that come out of that. Brady and Burrow, very stoic, very statuesque kind of guys. Kind of have like a cocky feel to them, very confident, clutch guys. Rodgers and Prescott. Um, Prescott's, I mean, he's almost, I won't say a direct copy of Rodgers, but when Rodgers was younger and more mobile,
yeah,
he was very good, just like Dak was. I mean, a lot of people forget that Rodgers, when he was younger, he was actually a very mobile quarterback.
yeah,
So, I mean,
yeah. He
I
was
like
super
it.
mobile. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it up to 11. I'm interested to hear your cases for Trevor Lawrence and Carson Wentz in particular, but I'm also interested to hear your Trey Lance and Zach Wilson cases.
Yeah, so Trey Lance is mobility upside. I have not wavered. I think Zach Wilson is still elite. This is all based on information I have as of today. So I'm not out on Zach Wilson. I've heard some inklings from camp. I'm not necessarily in love with it right now. I've heard the accuracy issues are still there, but I've also read that, he was throwing the ball like 60 miles an hour the other day. He's got to get it to, he's got to put the package together. Trey Lance right now is in the best possible fit he can be in that he's with Kyle Shanahan. He's got Debo Samuel locked into an extension. He's got Brandon Ayuk. He's got George Kittle. He's got Elijah Mitchell, and he's got Kyle Shanahan. Um, I think that Lance and Wilson are very interchangeable for me, but I give Lance the edge because of the coaching scheme and the fact that I know they can actually coach him up. I have questions about the Jets and being able to actually coach up Zach Wilson, and they have some names, but they got to start acting on it. So those are the two rookies that I'm infatuated with. Trevor Lawrence, I never had him as my number one, and I just think he's a little bit further away. He's at 14. I think he could easily be top 12 depending on how you look at it. He can run a little bit. He's going to be in an offense that passes the ball a crap ton nonstop. I just don't think the weapons are there yet for me to go dive straight in and take him in the top you know top 12 at the position based on the surrounding supporting cast of him. Looking at his peers, Zach Wilson and Trey Lance just have a lot more supporting cast, and that's kind of where I'm at with that. And then I went Wentz. Um, he could have done, I went Wentz. I think Wentz is entering the year with his best receiving core. He's got a good coach in him, around him, and I think Wentz is going to stick. Wentz is going to hover between 12 and 16 for me for the next 3 or 4 years. I think, unless things don't go well this year. But I have a think, again, I think we've talked about this. I think Washington ends up winning the division this year. I feel pretty strongly about that. I think last season the defense got tired and injured because Heineke couldn't throw the ball deep. There was no threat of a deep pass. They could only run the ball, and the defense was constantly on the field, which amounts to injuries. I think Wentz is going to have to control the turnovers, but he's had a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio 2 of the last 3 years, I want to say.
Yeah, I think Rivera is good for Wentz. Rivera kind of has that very stoic presence to him. He expects a lot out of you, but he's not going to beat you down mentally. He's not going to throw you to the wolves, i.e., the media, and he's not going to say, "Oh, I had to go apologize to my owner for picking him up," like Frank Reich did.
Yeah.
Um, but that's I can see Lawrence. I can see Lawrence because he's got the talent and now he's got some weapons. I think Christian Kirk is an excellent stopgap type guy. I think Evan Ingram has some good upside in the red zone. Wentz is a bit much for my taste, a little rich. I like Wentz. I love him as a QB3. He's been between him and Goff, he's been my QB3 of choice.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is just simply on how I think the stats are going to play out, and where this isn't where I'm saying that they're going to go off boards. This is where
No,
I just think that their likely finishes are in terms of dynasty, I'll say. I mean, you got to combine with what you think's going to happen for the next 3 years. I mean, Brady could retire next year, but if you have Brady on your team, if you have Brady and Russell Wilson, you're a contender. There's just no way around it, and that needs to
yeah,
be accounted for in the rankings.
100%. So that's another thing. Dynasty for Carson Wentz. Don't know where it's going to go. There's a lot of uncertainty there. I'm almost more comfortable having Kirk Cousins as a top 15 than Carson Wentz because of the certainty of him having a 2-year contract.
Hmm.
But for time purposes, I'm just gonna roll through mine real quick, and then you tell me how you feel about it. I got Herbert at number one for a lot of the reasons that you said. No change in his offense. Anything, it got a little bit better. You got Gerald Everett, who takes over that role. I think he's a little bit better than Jared Cook in every aspect of being a tight end, other than being really fast. Josh Allen, you can't beat it. I mean, the dude is the leading running back and quarterback for his team. I do think that, like you said, he has a little setback as far as rushing, but I think that's probably planned with the addition of James Cook. Patrick Mahomes, I actually love him as a low key MVP this year. I think they're going to ask Patrick Mahomes to really mature and really become like the next upgrade in quarterback. I think that they're going to ask him to use all of that talent that he has towards getting them downfield efficiently and not just doing it with bomb plays.
Hmm.
So he's actually my low key kind of dark horse for quarterback, which is weird to say about Patrick Mahomes, but that's how far we've kind of pushed him. Um, Kyler Murray, number 4. So this is where I said that the 3 or the 4, 5, 6, 7. Watson is my number 15, but that's because of the suspension more than anything else, not the talent. But that's where I was like, it could really go interchangeable. A couple weeks ago, I had Russell Wilson at 4. I now have Kyler Murray at 4 after his contract.
He started
Um,
doing the homework and he moved up your rankings.
yeah, exactly. Well, I stopped getting lazy after work and started actually like really diving into it. But so I think Kyler has the upside of being the most accurate running quarterback, and I think
Yeah.
that could work with Marquise Hollywood Brown being a deep threat. And I think that he can buy himself some time and really hammer it in there to Hollywood. Russell Wilson, Matt, he's got a lot of talent around him, and now we're gonna see what happens with Russell Cooks. Russell cooked one time, he had an on and off season. He looked spectacular at times. He didn't at times. Um, Lamar, easy one for Lamar. He is officially back in the offense that made him the MVP. He's only got to feed Andrews, Bateman, and run it nonstop.
And stay healthy.
Stay healthy. Yeah, that's the most important part. But that's why he packed on 20 pounds of muscle, man. Looks like an action figure out there. Joe Burrow, I'm higher on Joe Burrow than you are. I think Joe Burrow is the real deal. I think he's the real deal as far as being the next statuesque quarterback, continuing that on. Honestly, the weapons around him, it's hard to not see him, elevating his game. He's elevated it every single year.
Yeah.
And I think he's just going to be more comfortable with Higgins this year. I think Higgins is going to take off. And I think Jamar Chase is
I mean,
definitely not going to
I'm not out on
fall.
Burrow, but I think he might have been a product of his easy schedule the back half of the year as well.
Yeah, I mean,
You still have to do the work and get the stats that he did, but I don't think he's gonna. I think 8 to 10 is kind of a more projected outcome range for me for him.
yeah. Well, I always take into my projections a level of growth, and seeing that's how he is a young quarterback, I am imagining that, he's growing every single year. So that's why I kind of have him a little bit higher. Trey Lance, number 8. Wreck me for that, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean
Every
you're
day I'm hearing
taking.
out of camp, he is rolling through the progressions. He is having his good days, his bad days, but he is open minded, and everybody around him is saying that he is learning and getting better every single day. He's doing it against a great defense too. So,
I remember in camp when Mahomes threw 4 picks in a practice, and social media wouldn't let it die.
well, he really showed them, didn't he?
Depends on what year you're talking about, but yeah.
um, and then we got Tom Brady at 9, the GOAT, and got to keep him relevant up there. I mean, as long as he's got weapons to throw to, and he,
Disrespect to 14, man. Wow. You got
we'll get
Zach Wilson ahead of him. I love me some Zach Wilson, but
we'll get there. Derek Carr at number 10. I think this is Derek Carr season. If I'm a betting man, I'm thinking this is Derek Carr season. He is going to make it very apparent to the Raiders. I think they're actually going to finish number 2 in the division. He's going to make it very apparent to the Raiders that this is his time, that he needed Devontae Adams to elevate his game, and he's going to elevate it. And like I said, I'm bookending it. 40 touchdowns this year out of Derek Carr.
I'm booking it. If Derek Carr does not do well this season, he has got Indianapolis Colts written all over him.
What are you talking about, Frank? If Frank Reich doesn't make it to the playoffs this year, Frank Reich has got unemployment written all over him.
I don't know. You'd think so, but I mean, he keeps losing to the Jaguars to get in the playoffs. He still keeps getting employed.
You know who I think, on the topic of if Derek Carr flames out in Las Vegas, I think he could actually be a decent fit
And where?
in Tennessee.
Nah, man, that's Malik Willis.
Yeah.
People are taking him in the first round, 112. You can't just bring in a Derek Carr.
What are you talking about? He was the pre-draft 101.
He was the pre-draft 101 until I watched Kenny Pickett's film, and then he was
Freaking
the pre-draft.
legend. I
I'm
got
not. I'm
matches.
not. I'm actually digging myself a hole here. It's like I wasn't high on him. I was high on Kenny Pickett. I'm
Yeah.
still high on Pickett. It's training camp. Let's not overreact.
Well, I was gonna say training camp is actually backing you on that one because Trubisky is absolutely terrible in training camp. So,
Yeah,
according
it's
to
like
a
me.
report,
It's like, yeah.
what were you gonna say?
I'll spare people the time.
Okay. So we'll finish it out. I got Stafford at 11. This is a big one too. I got Dak at 12. Um, I think Dak's still going to be QB1, but I think that there's just more talent ahead of him at this point. Zach Wilson, You got me on the Zach Wilson train, and now I'm spewing it out to people, and people are going, what? And I'm like, yeah, keep that attitude when we draft because I'm gonna take him and I'm gonna fucking win our league.
Yeah, he's going in like the late fifth, and you can get him after all these big names go off the board. Which I own too much of him, and if he busts, it's
This has
you know
been one storyline that has been consistent all the way through. Everybody thinks Zach Wilson sucks.
maybe he
Like,
does,
like
but I
the
don't think
Trey
he
Lance
does.
was like a roller coaster. Like everybody was up, and then Jimmy Garoppolo news down, up, down, up, down, all the way through. Trey Lance has just, or Zach Wilson has just sucked, and I'm like,
But the turning point has been when he banged his mom's best friend. Now he's a dog, man.
well, people like that, but they're just going to change their name to the MILF Hunters. That's all they're going to do.
It's true.
Team name MILF Hunters.
Deshaun Watson has entered the chat.
And then we finished it off with Aaron Rodgers, the guy that you were talking about. Why am I putting Aaron Rodgers at 14?
No
Well,
receivers.
obviously, it's because his regression, because not having Devontae Adams. Not having Devontae Adams. And
He's
then
got Greg. He's got Greg. What's his name? Who's the guy from Nebraska? Samari Torrey. That's the name you've not heard of. Go Big Red.
all right, now that we're done with that segment. And then I finished it out with Deshaun Watson. Like I said at the beginning, it's not because of the talent, it's because of the suspension. Regardless if it's 6 games or it's a whole year, it's 12 games or it's 3 years or whatever it is, I don't want him immediately on my team this year, which means dynasty wise, he's a lower priority. I would
Where would you
at
take
the
him?
beginning. I'm comfortable as a QB3. If
So
he's
what is
my
that, 10th
QB1 or
round?
2, yikes.
Is that like 10th round you would take him?
And a super flex?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. 10th, 11th round, where DeAndre Hopkins is going.
I gave up 3 ones for Deshaun Watson and Tom Brady in the league. Feeling pretty smart.
You played 3 ones for Deshaun Watson and Tom Brady. Oh, that's not bad. That's really good. And who's it? Was it super flex or is it
Yeah,
regular?
super flex.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna have Mac Jones, but I'm not too thrilled about the trade now. I thought it would be like 6 to 12 game suspension.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least you got Brady and Mac Jones, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Mac's gonna have a pretty big surprising year for a lot of people. I think a lot of people are down on Mac. Come on, man.
The beat reporters disagree, but we can talk about that offline. Has not been kind as I've been reading.
All right. Well, we're gonna get out of here as usual. Thank you for tuning in to our little podcast here. And if you get a chance, subscribe to our YouTube channel, send us a comment, send us DMs, anything. We want to take your questions. We want to take your trade questions. Justin he loves trade questions. He loves getting all those DMs for it. I love it too.
The more trade questions I get, the longer the beard grows.
Wow. So you're gonna look like this for a long time, huh?
15 years with it to start my life. Why not keep going?
All right. Well, anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you guys. And as always, guys, stay frosty, Brew Crew.